anniversary of women winning the right to vote through the 19th Amendment. And so I apologize for the public, but for selectmen, there are copies of those presentations or posters in the packet. So over the coming weeks, you'll see them down our long hallway, and they'll be up for the course of the year so people can kind of take in the 7-decade march that was to equality. That is communications. So now we're going to move on to resignations. We do have a couple. The first is James Bagdikian stepping down as an alternate member from the Historic Preservation Commission. This item was tabled at our last meeting because we weren't sure about available seating. That has been clarified. So Mr. Bagdikian would like to step down as an alternate member to be appointed as a regular member, and there is an available vacancy on that commission for that seat. So the reason we held both 8A1 and 8C1 has been resolved and clarified, so we can move forward with those if there is not objection from the board. So a motion would be in order on that.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of James Bagdikian from the Historical Preservation Commission as an alternate member with regret.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The next 5 items are Tom Talamini resigning from various boards. The first one, we can do them all together if somebody would like to make the long list.
Sure. I'll move to accept the resignation of Tom Talamini from the American Heritage River Commission, the Broadbrook Mill Site Remediation Committee, Building Committee, Capital Improvement Planning Committee, and Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm just wondering what Tom's going to do with all his new free time.
Join the Board of Finance.
Work on the budget.
All in favor of accepting Tom's resignation with regret, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. Thanks for your service, Tom. You'll be missed. Next is reappointments. Barbara Smeagol has indicated that she is interested in retaining her seat on the Historic Preservation Commission.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Barbara Smeagol to the Historic Preservation Commission for a term expiring November 15, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So carried. New appointments. This is the previously mentioned appointment of Mr. Bagdikian as a regular member of the Historic Preservation Commission.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the appointment of James Bagdikian to the Historic Preservation Commission as a regular member for a term expiring November 15, 2023.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no.
Boy, that was the fastest resignation reappointment ever.
Yeah. So this next one is just a correction from last meeting. The date of the term has been corrected. So we had previously appointed Gil beyond what the term that he was being seated for properly holds. Because it's an elected position, it's only appointed until the next regular election. We jumped it a little bit further, so we now need to amend his appointment so that it lines up with the next municipal election.
We'll move to appoint Gil Hayes to constable for a term expiring November 2nd, 2021, amended from the previous agenda dated December 5th, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Kurt Kepschel was another one that we had held back because there was some confusion as to whether or not he wanted to serve on one board or another or several of them. In fact, he's confirmed that he wants to serve on the Conservation Commission as well. So that was another one that we had held. It's been clarified and an appointment would be in order.
Go ahead.
Make a motion, we appoint Kurt Kepschel
to the Conservation Commission, alternate member for a term expiring April 1, 2021.
Second.
Made and seconded, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? So carried.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do we have a system in place to notify or communicate with these individuals that they've been appointed?
We
or-
do.
Okay.
It's been a little slow to get started because I'm still one person down in my office. That will change at the end of the month. And so that's one of those processes that we're going to make sure we're following through on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is 9B. So at our last meeting, we had a presentation from the Census Bureau about the value and urgency around a complete census committee. And we looked at 4 examples of what other communities had done in terms of setting theirs up. I took the recommendation from the board to model this after, I think this was after Collins. And the only thing that I changed about it was they had a reference to their council chairman and their town manager, and so we don't have that. So I shrunk the commission as presented from Tallinn from 12 members down to 11 members, and then made the appropriate changes in the resolution. But there are 2 things that we need to take a look at. The first highlighted portion represents the 11 remaining positions that they identified in their community, if that makes sense. So now that we have kind of the verbiage down, you guys can take a look at who the membership as used in another community is and figure out, does that cover our bases here? Is there some constituency that we are overemphasizing, not emphasizing enough? Is it as robust and representative as it really ought to be for a committee whose mission is to make sure the participation is as robust and representative as it should? That's question number 1. So take a look at those 11. Any feedback would be for the benefit of the public. So we also list all of our selectmen's packets on the town website. So if you want to take a look on your own phone, you can certainly follow along without much trouble. But for the benefit of those who haven't seen that, the 11 people that are represented in this draft are a representative from social services, a representative from a faith-based organization, a representative from a community-based organization, the superintendent of schools or her designee, 1 representative from the Board of Selectmen, 1 representative from the Board of Education, the town clerk, the town planner, the Republican Registrar of Voters, the Democratic Registrar of Voters, and the first selectman or his designee. Those are the examples that we have taken from the town of Tallinn in terms of setting this commission up. It's a relatively robust group, but if there's something that you guys think we're missing, we should talk about it. What do you got?
Just two minor things, but I wanted to find out. Under superintendent school, her or designee, maybe a male that might want to be the designee down the road, so to avoid to having to change this.
No, so on that point, the superintendent of schools is a she, and will be while this commission is in process. It's only going to last for the next 9 months or so.
But it has or her, okay, so she's a she, I got that, all right. So then we're all set. I just didn't understand what it was written, or her designee. Okay, got it.
Anybody else?
I'm good with it as it is.
I am too.
Sarah?
I'm good with it. I'm just concerned as far as how we're picking these people to be on there, and if more than one person from a certain organization wants to be involved, how the selection process is going to take place. I'm just concerned, like a community-based organization, to me that's very vague.
Yep, it is.
So those are
But
just some of my concerns.
It's intentionally vague, and that's because, so for example, the food pantry might be a community-based organization, might also be a faith-based organization, actually. The Historical Society or Scout Hall might be a community-based organization. So I think the point with that, and I'm projecting my interpretation of what Colin was thinking, but I think the point of that was to make sure that that's kind of a catch-all for a representative of a group that's not part of the typical fishbowl that tends to be involved in things. In terms of the selection process, it would follow, I mean, so a representative from, I'll tell you what my interpretation is that So the town clerk, the town planner, the registrars, the first selectman, the superintendent or her designee, those are all pretty much
Right.
what they are.
Right.
Which leaves you with a faith-based organization, a community-based organization, one of you guys, a member of the Board of Education, that's it. That would typically, the way I envision this would be it would follow the same appointment process as is typical when we appoint boards or commissions. Some people may fit more than one of those criteria, and so when we have, once we figure out if there's anybody, well, what the interest is, how can we fit them in so that we can be as inclusive as possible.
Okay, so they would fill out an application just like any board or commission?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes. By the way, that's just my interpretation. If you guys want to do it a different way, it's not written there. It's just what our charter would recommend. We can change that.
Because this hasn't been voted on yet,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really exist. And tonight, during public participation, is it alluded to that somebody has already been appointed? Is that accurate?
No one's been appointed.
So I want to make sure that we're not doing anything without it being passed first.
Other questions, concerns, gentlemen?
Well, I think the process that we have for appointments works well. We don't need to change it. I agree.
If there's no further discussion, a motion would be in favor to adopt the resolution as presented,
Do we have a deadline as to when we will take applications up to?
as soon as we fill it.
Okay. So it's in the-
Yeah, this is the census-based thing, so they obviously are on a deadline, and they're going to be in the field by April.
Right.
So however we're going to work this, we need to get to work on it.
I'll move to approve the complete count committee resolution as presented for the town of East Windsor.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? So carried. At this point, it is 7:22, and I see people in the hallway. We do have the availability of the high school cafeteria if need be.
Elementary school.
What did I say?
You said high school.
We'll probably have that.
That's a long walk.
Joe, how many people Paul, how many people are congregating out there?
About 8.
Okay.
There isn't.
There's 2 chairs here.
It's going to be over at 7:30. If folks could just come in, we just want to make sure that everyone who's going to vote is inside. And then I suppose this would be an appropriate time to take a break. I think we're okay here. Does anybody think otherwise?
Still
Yeah, so what do you want to move?
several minutes.
I think we're all right. So a motion would be in order to take a recess for the town meeting.
I'll move to take a recess for the town meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. We are all in favor?
Aye.
We are in recess at 7:24.
How are you?
So are you gonna be able worry about it?
Oh, I got it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. How are you? Good to see ya.
How was that? You went to that thing in Sturbridge? Wasn't that
Be better in the past, but I think this is the first year. Yeah.
that we can go to. You at least have, here I go there, we don't do any of that stuff. So I think if we did, live to regret it.
But in the back of my mind, I would love to put on some kind of activity show like that here. And you gotta find a place to do it. Thinking Walmart would be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have to find a weekend that doesn't interfere with any of the other shows, like Ridgefield or Basketball Field or something like that. And then have some company willing to actually do put it on.
Yeah. But that sort of puts the town on the map, right? It becomes a destination if it goes well.
Yeah, we bring a lot of people in the town for a weekend, yeah.
Yeah,
It would be a great idea.
I think so, yeah.
And if that is maybe something like a big,
Yeah.
we've got some huge areas here in
Yeah, isn't there, where was it? Years ago, when computers, I bought my first computer, I don't remember where it was, maybe it was in the city. Cambodian folks. Excuse me.
now, thank you.
You can buy computers, disk that place is like a ghost because I remember I used to go
That's the only reason why I applied. No, he asked him to do it. I go, you have a copy of the email. Something going in there. You did get a copy. Just like that. So that was one, yeah, it was just for the paper.
Just some people brought their kids. Maybe that's what helps.
Well, because part of my stuff is, I have a lot more flexibility.
Would you like to read a resolution?
Out loud?
Out loud.
Sorry.
Sure. Second this time.
Only because it was funny.
I did.
That's funny. That's why
All right, it is 7:30. I'm going to call the town meeting to order. We have a full to capacity room, so I'm going to try not to dawdle. The first item on the call of the town meeting is election of a moderator. Are there nominations?
Nominate Jason Bauza as moderator.
Second. Made and seconded. Any further nominations?
Move the nominations be closed.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All in favor of Jason Bauza as town moderator, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. Charlie and Sarah.
Charlie.
Okay. I'm now going to ask the town clerk to read the town meeting public notice.
Town of East Windsor Public Town Meeting Notice. The legal voters of the Town of East Windsor are hereby warned that a town meeting will be held at Town Hall, 11 Rice Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, on Thursday, January 9th, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. for the following. Item number 1, to consider and vote on the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 7-9B, that the hours for referenda held by the Town of East Windsor in the calendar year 2020 be held from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Item number 2, to consider and vote on an added appropriation in the amount of $150,000 for completion of the splash pad project at East Windsor Park, dated at East Windsor, Connecticut, the second day of January 2020. East Windsor Board of Selectmen, Jason E. Bauza, First Selectman, Marie E. D'Souza, Deputy First Selectman, Charles F. Nordell, Selectman, Sarah A. Muska, Selectman, and Alan Baker, Selectman.
Thank you. I'm now going to read the eligibility to vote. This comes from Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-6. At any town meeting other than a regular or special town election, or at any meeting of any fire, sewer, or school district, or any other municipal subdivision of any town incorporated by any special act, any person who is an elector of such town may vote, and any citizen of the United States of the age of 18 years or more who jointly or severally is liable to the town, district, or subdivision for taxes assessed against him on an assessment of not less than $1,000 on the last completed grand list of such town, district, or subdivision, or who would be so liable if not entitled to an exemption under Connecticut General Statute Subdivision 17, 19, 22, 23, 25, or 26 of Section 12-81 may vote unless restricted by the provisions of any special act relating to such town, district, or subdivision. That's our eligibility to vote. There is a registrar of voters here to determine two registrars of voters to determine eligibility if there's a need. I'm now going to ask for resolution number 1 to be read.
To consider and vote on the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 7-9B that the hours for referenda held by the Town of East Windsor in the calendar year of 2020 be held from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. I move the foregoing resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Kathy Simonelli. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Resolution is carried. Resolution number 2.
Item number 2, to consider and vote on an added appropriation in the amount of $150,000 for completion of the splash pad project at East Windsor Park. I move the foregoing resolution be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
I didn't see it. Nicole D'Souza? Any discussion on the resolution? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Jack Manette, Old Wellington Road. After seeing that you're going to go to a town meeting for additional $150,000, I have some observations and comments that I'd like to make so that all of us are fully informed on the things that I found. First of all, the initial funding of $278,000 was done back in June of 2018. On December 5th, at the Board of Selectmen meeting, another request for $150,000 was made. The total request then for this splash pad up to this point is $428,000. At that Board of Selectmen meeting, a request was made to provide additional cost documentation. They respectfully refused to present that for fear of become public information. That's strange because I went back to all the minutes from July of 2018 on all the commissions that were relative to the splash pad. On July 8th, 2019, at a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, a contract for the splash pad was signed. It was indicated that it was signed. 12 months after the 2018 approval. Yet no documentation could be provided about the cost associated with the contract being signed for $150,000. I can't understand, nor can I find any reference in any of the meeting minutes from the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, as to a discussion relative to the work scope, relative to the cost cycles, relative to the previous quotes that were outstanding, for the maintenance on that after it's installed. It's an awful large amount of taxpayer funding. By the way, also in the Board of Finance meeting, or Board of Selectmen meeting, sorry, there was also a notation that they'd have to move the concession stand and the bathrooms. And there was no indication. They said they would have to come back through the CIP program to get additional funds. What it looks like is that the cost of this splash pad could exceed $500,000. Also based at that meeting, there was a comment that this splash pad is to benefit non-tax-paying, non-residents of East Windsor. Discretionary funds derived from our taxpayer dollars should not be used for the benefit of other resident people outside of East Windsor. I hope that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance unintentionally do not recognize the importance of using discretionary funds for things outside of East Windsor. I recommend very seriously that this splash pad recommendation be rejected and we continue and put that money somewhere else for better use.
Thank you, Mr. Manette. Young lady, name and address, please.
Jillian Hubbard, 40 Mill Street. In regards to Mr. Manette's statement, there's a little bit of discrepancy in one of the parts. I won't get into the details on everything, but there's a lot to be said about the fact that this splash pad is going to indefinitely be something that is a quality of life project for everybody in town. It's going to benefit people who are outside of town as well. That is not false. However, the way that it's being portrayed as a view is what is false. The people who would be coming in from out of town and enjoying the splash pad, which I project would probably be quite a number of families because we don't have one anywhere in the area, they would be actually supporting East Windsor because they would be paying a higher dollar amount than the community members that are enjoying the splash pad as well as the park over at the reservoir. With that being said, the funds that we will be raising, essentially, because it will be coming back as revenue, will go to Parks and Rec, if I'm not misunderstanding that.
That's the general fund.
Okay, the general fund. Regardless, I'm sure that it'll more than cover the maintenance, which I know is something that some people are concerned about, is the maintenance fees and costs and all of that. But I think that the families of East Windsor and those who come from out of town, as well as the people who aren't families, elderly and handicapped children and handicapped people as a whole, are also really going to be able to benefit from something like a splash pad to cool off during those hot months. We don't have anything like that in town right now. We have some parks, but our parks really aren't anything to shake a stick at. And the families in this town don't have a lot of things going on in this town right now. And we're losing a lot of families between sports and between the lack of support that families are getting in this community. So I think that the splash pad for me personally is a really smart option, even though it's a higher dollar amount. The money is not just going to the splash pad, it's also going to upgrading a facility that we already have there that our community uses for so many different things. Thank you.
Other public comment? Yes, in the back. Name and address, please.
Deb Deglio, 8 Away. As a parent, grandparent, I drive to Agawam for a free splash pad to take them. Or I have to go to Hartford, which technically their parents don't like that idea. Otherwise, I have to pay to go into Windsor's swimming pool, which they have a splash pad in Wilson, or South Windsor, which is technically way out of my budget. And in Agawam, there is people from everywhere that's there, but it's not overrun with it being free. And the kids enjoy it immensely. It's like Enfield's talking about one, but I don't know when they're even gonna get there. There is nowhere close, and those kids love it. They run, they have fun, and I think it would be a disservice to this town if we don't vote to have it go through. Thank you.
Other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Chris Bowser, 5 Eastwood Drive. I understand that the funding for this splash pad is a matter of contention with some people, but I think that it's more than just the cost of the facility itself. If we establish this facility in our town, it will bring people in from other towns who will support our local businesses. They'll use our restaurants, they'll shop in our shops. They will perhaps look at our community as a place that they would like to bring their families to live and grow. Maybe it will help us retain some of the families that are considering moving out because we don't have a lot of recreational facilities for families to enjoy. There's a bigger picture than what the cost of the initial investment will be. And I think that it's very important that we start to build up our community, build relationships with the people in our community, bring people from outside in so that we can grow and prosper.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. We're in a situation right now in this town where economic development is a critical thing. We're going to get the burden off taxpayers. We need commercial development. Quality of life in the community is one of the major criteria that's looked at when a business wants to relocate, because they want their employees to be comfortable and happy. So this is a quality of life issue. So I think we desperately need this type of thing to show that we are a positive community that supports the people within it. The few outside people are not significant. They're going to pay their way, but the people who live in this town, they need this. This is not just a casual thing. We don't have a whole lot going on, and this is just a super positive item. I'm totally in favor.
Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Kelly Boulay, 69 South Main Street. I've spent many years of my teens working for the park in the town. And I just want to say, I know how much money this park can make. And I really think we should invest in this because my child, I know there's plenty of people's children that go to this summer camp. When you go to pick your kids up, there's hardly anybody there. This could really boost this for us and we could actually make money.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Marie D'Souza, 10 Rice Road, Broadbrook. I couldn't hear one of the speakers, so I hope I'm not going to be redundant. But when you look at the splash pad, in my opinion, and the reason I voted the way I did on the other hat that I wear, I'm speaking as a resident, is that we need tax revenue, no matter how minor. We have small businesses in town that are closing up because they have a lack of no support. If we can draw residents to come out of the house and go to a place in town where they can enjoy themselves with their entire family, those residents leaving their house are certainly going to stop somewhere around town on the day that they're out that they normally don't do. Those people coming in from out of town into East Windsor, as I do when I go up the Agawam with the grandchildren, I make 2 or 3 stops on the way down because, oh, I want to stop in that shop to look around, I want to go over there, look around, oh, we've got soda, we need to pick up this. I see that as a plus for out of town people coming in. They're going to pay to help support our facility, but they're also going to be there to help the small persons along the corridor and purchase from those locations. At least that's what my hope as a resident is that will be done. So I want to look outside just to scope of what's going to happen at the reservoir. But for the reservoir, the revenue potential for the reservoir over there, especially if we're trying to get businesses to come in, they now have a bigger and better place to do a company gathering. As another draw for that. Right now, we don't have much of a draw up there to bring in companies to want to do stuff up there. But that water park certainly would draw companies to take a second look. So I would ask people in the room to please support it for quality of life, for additional, hopefully revenue coming into town, and so that we can sell East Windsor. Right now, we have nothing. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear is we have nothing for the elderly people to do other than senior centers. They're looking for things to keep them busy. A better way to have a place where they can go and opportunities for senior day, senior hour, whatever, child's hour out of town, and more daycare centers looking for things to do. That will certainly be another draw to add to the day-to-day programs up there, and at least that's what I envision. So I would encourage everybody in this room to take a hard look at it and vote yes for today's resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
I think you could look at it in a couple of ways, but if you're looking at it from a financial point of view, you could market it as an attraction. You know, people throw birthday parties down there all the time. We have the summer camp going. I know that we have a cast there in the summertime. You know, friends come along with us. The families don't have passes. I would see those families buying passes. I would see the competition for holding a birthday party there a little more, hence maybe raising the price for out-of-town folks to have birthday parties. It's more snacks at the snack shop. It's more jobs for our teenagers or volunteer positions for our teenagers. It's definitely more civic engagement. And I think if you were to really look at it creatively, you could have a lot of separate points to bring in revenue if you put the splash pad in there. I think you could market it as an attraction.
Thank you. Other public comments? Is there other public comment? So I would just like to say that I think that East Windsor has a tremendous amount to offer, but It's not often that you see on Facebook pages or other communities, them pointing to things going on here and saying, wow, look at what East Windsor's doing, we should be doing that. Why aren't we doing that? I think that our community deserves this, and I hope that it'll pass tonight. Before we vote, I'm going to ask anybody who is interested in voting that's in the hallway to please make your way into the room. So the resolution has been moved, it has been seconded. Is there any further discussion on the resolution on the floor?
I
Yes,
have
sir.
one question. Is there a actual plan of the bid that we have here? The engineering plan's all done?
It's going out to bid tomorrow
Oh, it
if it
is.
passes.
No.
So, correct me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, and once it passes, the architect will get us the specs and the RFP, then it will go out. We're hoping by the end of February.
And a question came up earlier as to whether or not this would be open and ready for the coming season. The answer to that is yes.
That is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Masters, Wall Street. Have we worked into the budget how much it's going to take to demolish the food shack and bathrooms?
So as a point of correction, that was a misrepresentation earlier. The snack shack and bathrooms will not be affected by this
Okay. project.
They are staying as is. What is being referenced was discussion of a multi-phase master plan that has been considered, but not, we haven't signed off on it yet. The splash pad is a contained project. It is phase one of a master plan, but it will not have an impact on the snack bar or anything else. So that was a misrepresentation earlier. Other questions or concerns?
Point of order. Jason, you just mentioned that that was not part of the discussion. I think you should go back and look at the minutes of your meeting.
I'll correct that and say that it's not part of the splash pad plan. The splash pad as presented will not affect the existing snack bar or bathrooms.
And you need to correct the minutes of your meeting.
Well, all right, sure, we can do that. Other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Kathy Billady, 343 Scannick Road. I had asked the question earlier as to where does the funds come from?
Yes.
So I know sometimes we get things that are grants, sometimes there's that, rainy day fund, whatever. I'm just kind of curious as to how we will be able to fund it.
This is an added appropriation that would come out of the undesignated fund balance.
Thank you. So it would not increase taxes for the citizens in town?
The money for this project has already been paid for by taxpayers in town.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Frank Keenan from 13 Reservoir. I was just concerned with lots of people, years ago, there were bus loads coming by my house, going to the park, and we could not use it. I'm just concerned if there's going to be, if we have room for all these people who are going to be coming in.
I'm not sure that we've done any type of a traffic study or anything to that effect. I don't expect that there will be an ongoing parade of buses. I think that this is an amenity that primarily will benefit.
Lots of them. We had lots of trash on the yard all the time, everything too. It was really, pretty disturbing.
We don't allow buses in the park anymore.
We don't.
No bus.
So there you go. Buses aren't even allowed in the park.
I don't know where they parked, but they were there.
What was yours?
Any further comments or discussion? All in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
No. Yes, sir. Oh, you're voting, I see. Resolution clearly passes. With that, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved. Second.
Joan Eckel, seconded by Kathy Simonelli. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Opposed, no? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Get that one next time.
see you, Jack.
Okay.
Well, then I definitely don't want it.
Keep me on sharp.
Bye, Frankie.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, at the break, we had completed the complete count committee resolution. Now we're on to new business item 10A, discuss and approve the Sustainable Connecticut resolution. This is that grant program that I had spoken about previously that I learned about at the CCM conference at the beginning of December. In order to begin the application process for community projects, the municipality first needs to adopt this resolution. The explanation of why we need to do it is on the first page, and I amended their sample resolution to conform to the town of East Windsor attached on the second page. There's also a CCM training on this coming up in Vernon in February. 7th, I think, at 9 o'clock. If anybody wants to join me at that, let me know, and I can get you registered.
Who is that open to?
It's open to CCM members, which are, the town of East Windsor is a member.
Do I know, like, can I go?
I'm gonna say probably, but I can check to be sure and let you know. It will be on the 7th at 9 o'clock in Vernon, and if anyone is interested, let me know, I'll get us registered. So, this is the resolution. It's an explanation of what it is that we're trying to do. I will read the resolution and then ask for a motion. Whereas Sustainable Connecticut is a comprehensive, statewide, action-oriented volunteer certification program built by and for municipalities with the vision that sustainable Connecticut communities strive to be thriving, resilient, collaborative, and forward-looking. They build community and local economy. They equitably promote the health and well-being of current and future residents, and they respect the finite capacity of the natural environment. Whereas Sustainable Connecticut is designed to boost local economies, help municipal operations become more efficient, reduce operating costs, and provide grants and additional support to municipalities. Whereas East Windsor embraces an ongoing process of working toward greater sustainability, selecting which actions it chooses to pursue from the voluntary menu of actions provided by Sustainable CT. Resolved by the Board of Selectmen of East Windsor that we do hereby authorize the Office of the First Selectman to serve as East Windsor's Sustainable Connecticut point of contact for the Sustainable Connecticut municipal certification process, and authorize the office to complete municipal registration on behalf of East Windsor. Resolved that to focus attention and effort within East Windsor on matters of sustainability, and in order to promote the Board of Selectmen's local initiatives and actions towards Sustainable Connecticut municipal certification, East Windsor establishes an advisory sustainability team. Resolved that the first meeting of the sustainability team must be held within 90 days of passing this resolution, and that the sustainability team shall meet as frequently as needed, but no less than quarterly. Resolved that the sustainable team shall report annually to the Board of Selectmen on the progress of its activities towards Sustainable Connecticut certification, with reports and presentations made publicly available. That is the resolution.
I'll move to approve the Sustainable Connecticut resolution for the town of East Windsor as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
How many people need to be on the team?
3, I think. It's a minimum of 3, but it's open-ended if it's on my information in the office. I'm going to say it's 3, but we can have up to as many as we want.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. This is resolution day, just because there's like a million of them. The next one, Connecticut, the town of East Windsor is a member of the Capital Regional Council of Governments, and CROG, as it's colloquially known, is the portal by which, that's our regional planning agency, and also a portal by which municipalities who participate can receive grant funds. I've been to one meeting so far, because they've had one meeting since I've been in office. The next one is next week. And they have a grant opportunity that's available for 4 separate projects. The projects approved are CROG region-wide planimetric data, school municipal back office consolidation through collective collective bargaining agreements and implementation plans, transit-oriented development and deal structuring assistance, and an application for an economic development consultant for 4 towns. That's the piece that particularly caught my interest, is the opportunity to get a multi-town economic development person. I have reached out to CROG and asked if those 4 towns have already been identified, or if we can potentially be one of those 4 towns. I have not heard back. But in the interest of having our ducks in a row, in case the answer is yes, we can be an applicant community, I thought it pertinent to adopt the resolution that's attached here too. And this is an annual thing that I believe CROG requires of, or OPM requires of CROG and their participating municipalities. My voice is getting a little scratchy, so if someone else would like to read the resolution, I'd be more than amenable to that.
I'll read it.
Mr. Big, Selectman Big.
Support resolution, OPM Regional Performance Incentive Program. Whereas section 4-124S provides statewide incentive grants to regional planning organizations for projects that involve shared services, and whereas the Capital Region Council of Governments is acting as a convener and facilitator of service sharing projects around the CROG region, and whereas on December 18, 2019, the Board passed resolutions authorizing development and submittal of application packages to the State Office of Policy and Management for funding under the Regional Performance Incentive Grant Program on behalf of the Council's member municipalities and municipalities of other regions which are participating in Council initiatives. And whereas the chief elected officials and municipal staff of the Capital Region have developed a list of service sharing project proposals that will be included in this application package to the benefit of individual municipalities and the region as a whole. And whereas the town of East Windsor has expressed an interest in taking part in the project proposals entitled, number 1, CROG region-wide planometric data, 2, school municipal back office consolidation cost benefit analysis and implementation plans, 3, transit-oriented development marketing and deal structuring assistance, and 4, East Granby, Windsor, Locks, and Suffield economic development consultant.
There it is. That's only 3 towns though.
And you said there was 4?
Yeah, it's approved for 4, so I haven't asked him to be the 4th.
I'm sorry, could you repeat it? Then I'll bring it up and public participate. The 3 towns again?
East Granby, Windsor, Locks, and Suffield.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the East Windsor Board of Selectmen does hereby endorse the above referenced Regional Performance Incentive Program project proposal and authorizes the first selectman to sign all necessary agreements and take all necessary actions to allow for the town's participation in this program.
So again, this is, what I'm trying to do is get the resolution in place so that we're eligible to get grant opportunities from OPM to CROG. I'm hopeful that there is still opportunity for us to become the 4th town there, although now I'm less so. But this is still a prospective thing that should last for the calendar year, so that if another opportunity comes up through OPM, the resolution that we need to adopt is in place. That's what I'm going for. And as I view it as a part of my role as first selectman to be active in groups like CCM and CROG, and a couple others that we'll talk about during budget season that I think have some benefit. I'm more than willing to steal somebody else's good idea, and even better to steal their resources. And so to the extent that we're able to, not literally steal their resources, but to the extent that we can benefit from these regional groups, I think there's nothing but upside here. So that's what the purpose of this is. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
We didn't make a motion.
Oh, you just read, I'm sorry.
I just read the resolution.
Do you move the foregoing resolution?
I do move the foregoing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I thought that came from Heather. I was like, well, that's great, but you can't. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Selectman Nordell.
If we were to receive this, what happens when it ends? Are we on the foot for the bill, or?
So that would be determined by the language of that grant. I haven't seen the grant opportunity yet. There are cases where the grant ends, the project goes away. There are cases, particularly around federal homeland security grants, particularly policing, where there is an obligation to, as the grant fades away, the municipality is obligated to, for a time certain, continue the service, lest they have to reimburse the feds. We had a police grant a number of years ago for that. I think it was the SRO program. Maybe it wasn't the SRO program. We had some sort of a federal grant, and they paid for 100% of the, I think it was 100% of the service in year one, and then phased out, and then we had an obligation for a year or two after the life of the grant to continue the program. I don't know what that would be, what the case would be here. That'd be a determination we would make when we decided to apply or not. But I haven't seen the grant posting. I actually don't think the grant posting has gone out.
So once we approve this, then you'll send a letter?
I've already sent an email asking if we can be considered for that, but it's also a prospective approach to what I'm trying to do is put East Windsor on the map with CROG, which is a portal for grant funding, and we haven't been.
I understand that, but this paragraph here says if you have not sent in your letter supporting it, we greatly appreciate it. And it's got a bunch of towns that have. Yeah, I read it that you have to send in a letter of interest in order to be considered for any grant money.
Yep, and they provide a sample of what that letter should be. I'll do the back end of that once we
Okay,
approve it.
all right, just want to make sure.
Yeah, good with it.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so Jake needs to follow up. Thank you, guys. Next in our packet is an email we received from the president of the Broad Brook Library Association taking considerable exception to their request for an audit of their finances when they requested. Well, you can read it. The Broad Brook Library takes exception to your budget letter. The request of the Board of Finance for CPA audits based on a request of $15,000 or more is not appropriate. This should be based on funding actually received. In 2019, they requested $25,000 and actually received $10,000. They currently don't have a CPA doing an annual audit because they can't afford it. So what Paul is asking is for, and Paul, you can speak for yourself, but you're asking for a waiver from the policy to require an audit for a budget request.
That wasn't the original intent. The original intent was to point out the problem with the request in the first place for everybody. I don't think it's appropriate at all. I could request $1 million and I got $1 and I need a CPA audit. That's nonsense. That's the whole point. The size of the request has nothing to do, in my opinion, of the requirement for an audit. The amount of town funding could have a major impact on the requirement for an audit. But if you're not funding at a given amount or a given level, then I don't see why an audit is important. That's the point of this. I wasn't looking for an exception for us. I was saying that our budget request takes exception to that portion of that letter.
Have you ever been required to provide an audit?
I can't tell you the entire history of the
Yes, you have.
But we have in the past provided audits. Whether or not they got here, I don't know. I have copies of audits.
But recently, I mean, I don't remember.
Nothing recently.
I don't remember anything
No.
recently.
Nothing in the past 6 years, roughly.
I want to say it goes back to like 08, 09. I was early in my tenure.
Yeah. So there was one, yeah.
Yeah, I believe there was an objection made to a few residents in town that weren't being funded at a capacity where they could pay for such an audit, but I don't remember all of that group. But I know Broad Brook at one time was.
Cemeteries probably were.
The cemeteries, I think. I want to say when the ambulance was a truly voluntary ambulance, I think they were. I'm not 100% sure.
So Paul's apparently not asking for an audit exemption. So it's just an FYI for next year. Right?
I'm taking exception for this budget request.
Would you like an exemption?
Excuse me. That's your call on your side. We're taking exception when we present our budget request. We will not comply with that. What you do on your side is fine. But I'm not asking for a special exemption. I'm saying we're not complying because it's not appropriate. That's my exception.
Well, I think whether that's appropriate really is a determination for the people soliciting budget requests.
I think the problem is with the policy. The letter I don't think represents the intent of the policy.
So the charter allows us to waive this. The question is, do we want to waive it?
Do we waive it, or is that a Board of Finance function? I mean, the Board of Finance is the one that's going to review the audit.
We put, well, no, we made it we put out the budget solicitation. I do think it's us.
I don't know whether I'm Nancy Masters, Rice Street, I don't know whether I should really speak, but I sit on some other nonprofits in town with much larger budgets, although we don't receive any money from the town. We don't get a specific audit, but our books are gone over with a fine-tooth comb, and what we get is a letter on top of the taxes saying that either this would have to be approved, or there's nothing that needs to be changed, everything is fine. And for that, you can pay under $4,000, or probably even for their budget, $1,000, with a letter from a CPA, which is not an audit. There is a big difference.
Thank you. So guys, what do we want to do?
Table it to review the documents and see what overall, because if you dump one, you know you're gonna have a list coming in to be exempt.
So you want to move to postpone this?
Yes, please. Not unless anybody else has an objection to that. I just don't have the letter in front of me as to what we sent out, and I don't want to vote on something that I'm not right on in my mind.
I'll get you another copy of it.
I can look it up, I just don't want to look it up now.
Yep. Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second to postpone until the 123 meeting?
Second.
123 is our next meeting.
Oh, yeah, 123rd, it's on January, you're right.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of postponement?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Just have a little review, a little bit more than just postpone.
We're postponing the letter from the Broadbrook Library taking exception to the board's policy on audit submission. Next, 10D, we have guests from the community, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, who have some exciting things going on and can provide an update on what that is.
Yes, we're just checking those and passing down.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm here tonight representing a new committee in town. I'm here with Seal and Nancy. Chris is a representative from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, who is here this evening helping us out as well. The Hartford Foundation has agreed to give the 29 towns that they serve in the Hartford area $100,000 to be used and given out in the individual towns by the people of the towns. It's called Greater Together. And 50,000 of that money will be given out in the first year to 501c3s, commissions involved with the town, in other words, nonprofits or nonprofit entities that are already in process, that are already out there. So it's up to us to create committees to choose those people, or choose where the money is going to go. So we are part of the selection committee here in town, and we are kicking off tonight the opportunity for people here in town to join our advisory committee. The advisory committee will be a group of East Windsor residents that are not elected officials, sorry. And they... And their job is going to be to create bylaws for the group, because this will be an ongoing process. Bylaws for the group. They're going to create application process for the nonprofits to apply for the money, and also to decide which agencies or town projects are being funded. The other $50,000 is going into an endowment fund. And so over time, we'll be able to use that money from the interest to be able to continue to give out money in town. So the first year is $50,000. After that is the interest from the endowment fund. Am I missing anything, Chris?
No, you did a great job.
Okay. Yes?
Once the endowment is established, can additional funds from third-party sources be donated?
As far as we know, yes.
So you're setting up a micro Hartford Foundation.
Yes.
This is
That's the
so
hope.
cool.
That's the hope.
And some towns actually have already received donations from people in the community to add to their endowments. So.
Wow. So I'm going to ask Sharon.
Yeah.
If you serve on the phase 2 of this process,
The advisory council.
if you serve on the advisory council and you're affiliated with a nonprofit organization in town, can your nonprofit organization apply for consideration?
It can, but you have to step out during those votes.
Okay, so there's a recusal.
Yes.
This is so cool. Do any board members have any questions?
The application is on the other side of what I handed you, and we're hoping that people here in town will apply to be on the committee. We've got until March 1st to apply, and then they'll come and visit our selection committee, and we'll interview each person. We're hoping to get around 12 people to sit on the advisory committee for anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Depending on what the advisory council decides is an appropriate time for volunteers to turn over. And we hope that this will continue for many years. We hope that the money will build in the account and that we'll be able to help agencies in town on a regular basis. And the town of East Windsor, the government part of the town, does not need to be involved in any way. There's no work to be done on the town's part. This will be all volunteer and our connection with our foundations.
And we will continue to support the town's committees as time goes on. Though I can't commit to any financial stuff, I'm a communications guy. So.
I have to say, on behalf of the town, we can't be more appreciative of the Hartford Foundation's opportunity that they presented and the people who have put in their time so far getting us to where we are.
Well, and I'd like to give a lot of credit to the folks you have here in the room talking about this, because I had a good feeling that it would be a smaller town that would move this fast, and I'm being proven correct.
You knew the people on the selection committee to understand.
Yes.
And for public information, can people who have served on the selection committee serve on the advisory council?
No.
You can't self-select, no.
And it can include a high school student or 2 high school students. Because we're looking for diversity, a lot of diversity.
So do any other selectmen have any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a list of all the 501c3 organizations or groups in town available to you?
We have what came from the 250 committee.
Okay.
They were able to share their information with us, but we will get that's going to be up to the advisory committee to get that information out.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from, I'm going to open this up to members of the audience if people don't mind. But before I do that, is there any other questions or comments from the board?
Can I just ask one quick question? Do we know what the Library Association is a 501c3?
Absolutely.
Okay, that was my...
They actually hold 2 of them.
Okay. What about you, Paul?
Better.
Pretty sure.
So, Secretary of State and a number of others, and auditors, but I don't have a piece of paper to prove it at this point. But
There's got to be something on file someplace.
I'll be getting it.
Good for you, Paul.
Any members of the public have any questions or comments? Yes, sir, you in the back. Name and address, please.
Joe Chason, not of East Windsor. So I just want to make sure I got it right. March 1st is the deadline for applications for being on the advisory. It's not when the final selection will be?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And also, we're kicking it off tonight, but
all of the school kids will go home with a copy of the
It's already
letter
come
and
home.
the application.
Oh, it's already gone home, that's great.
It's on the parent portal. Journal Enquirer, Current, has been visiting us.
Here.
So we're trying to get it out to as many people so anybody can see this and might want to be an applicant.
Or contact any of us on the committee. There's 6 or 7 of us. 6 of us.
Yes, sir, name and address,
Bob
please.
Black, 80 Rise Street. With all this good publicity, that $50,000 isn't going to last very long.
What a nice problem to
That
have.
isn't.
Yeah, that's a nice problem.
That isn't the question,
We
of
hope
course. You mentioned that elected officials could not be on the committee.
Right.
What about appointed officials, and how do you specifically
Appointed
say
or
which
okay?
jobs?
Okay, appointed or okay. I'm glad you were here to answer that, because I would have said probably not.
It was raised by other people.
He had the better answer.
Yes, ma'am, name and address.
Kate Carey Trell, 28A Folkestone Road, East Windsor, or Broadway. I was, where you were saying not elected officials, could there be representatives from the Board of Ed or from the, to just
sure.
kind of be involved, or?
As long as they're not elected officials.
Well, that, I guess that's my question.
Well,
because
you could certainly
Board of Ed is-
promote it and share it with others. They just
Oh,
can't.
yes.
Elected folks can't serve on the board.
Can't
We-
serve.
Right.
We would encourage you all to share this and have people
Share
apply.
the
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
And it's already gone out on Facebook, and we're hoping to get,
We'll put it on the town website too if you get me something.
Thank you.
Any other questions from, yes, sir?
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadway. Will your meetings be open to the public?
Yes. Now, are you talking about the selection committee that we're on?
No.
Okay. The advisory committee, I assume so. We had stepped down at that point.
They got their bylaws to do first.
Right, they have bylaws to do, they have to come up with a way to, an application process and a promotion. So it'll be at least, I imagine, at least a year before that. So you have plenty of time to look for your 501c3 certificate.
So just for clarification, you said your group has to step down?
Yes, we're just a task force. We disperse.
Any members of you guys?
No, we can't be on the advisory.
Not initially, eventually you could apply later.
They can
but
come
the-
back.
the
Like
idea
3
is
years
that none of
later.
the people on the selection committee are gonna be able to select themselves to serve in the advisory.
Right, but you could come back
Over a
3 years
period of
down the
time,
road,
yeah.
whatever the case may be, okay.
Yes, ma'am, name and address, please.
Kathy Simonelli, 71 Depot. Just a logistical question, something you said, you're getting money, and you said the town doesn't have to be involved. So who manages the funds?
The Hartford Foundation
We
for
do.
Public Giving.
So
Okay,
basically, it sits in our endowment.
okay.
And you can be rest assured it's a very well-run endowment. So the money will grow because we all rely on that. So
And we pay no fees,
we pay
no nothing.
fees.
Oh, wonderful, okay.
Yes, there's no administration.
It's
So we're not trying to find a
$100,000.
treasurer. I
No.
guess that's what I was looking for, yeah. Because that's not always so easy
We
to
will
find.
keep track of
I've
what's
been one
available.
many times, but
No,
yeah,
they'll cut all the checks, everything.
excellent, okay.
but they've also been supportive with printing for us so that we can put things in the backpacks and
Yes.
And
you
then
were-
right there-
Yeah.
Excellent.
And each community fund is assigned a staff person. We have a team of folks that are working with the folks in every town, and we're not going away there.
Are you ours?
I am the communications person, but I was really excited about this, so I showed up. My colleague Megan, who's much better at this work than I am, has a kid at home, and she
Apparently, we're moving along a little faster than some of the other 28 towns.
Given the composition of the selection committee, I am not surprised.
Our meetings start at 6 o'clock and they end at 7, every other week. Yeah.
We aim for that too. We're trying. Again, we could not be more appreciative of the opportunity from the Hartford Foundation. It's a group that has such a sterling reputation, and to be able to put that to work in town is a real opportunity.
Well, we're really excited about it. No, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our next item is approval of tax refunds. They are in your packet. Oh, before we move it on, I'll also just say, the applications are also available on the display kiosk outside by the Lions donation bin.
move to approve the tax refunds totaling $767.86.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay. Selectmen's reports. On December 20th, a representative from the Connecticut Economic Resource Center came in to discuss ways that CERC could be helpful to East Windsor in terms of encouraging economic development opportunities. We started out with an initial conversation of broad ideas, and then I pulled out a zoning map and discussed specific areas that might be attractive for development. And then as the conversation progressed, we actually decided to forget the map and took a ride around town, and I showed her point by point the, really, I mean, it's the best way to get a sense of what's going on. It's because you look at a map and you can't necessarily see the real world relationship between parcel A and parcel B. So the thought was, I got an hour, let's go drive around. And so that's what we did. She followed up yesterday with information about services that are available to the town at no cost, and services that may be available at some cost, which can help potentially identify what our consumers in town would support in terms of businesses, and then make connections with those businesses that might have a support base within the community to locate there. So determining what our buying trends might support, or what our proximity and geography might support, and then going and hopefully making that connection with a business that might match what the desires of the community are. I'll share the updated information that CERC provided at our January 23rd meeting, because it came in after the Selectmen's packet went out, so that'll be a communication item that comes in at that point. As long as there's nothing in there that's pertaining to any type of an engagement or another negotiation. Later that same night, there was a structure fire in Mill Pond Village. I believe that within 17 minutes of the call coming in to dispatch, the fire was out. And the Broadbrook Fire Department had that fire extinguished in short order with assistance from the Warehouse Point Fire Department and several other departments from neighboring towns. Although the fire was handled quickly, more than 40 people were displaced as a result of that. One unit was burned out entirely. And I'll tell you, having seen scenes like this on TV and having been around fires at the campsite and all that, the thing that really struck me as we walked in just after the fire had gone out and there was still accumulated water at your feet was the smell. And that was something that you obviously expect, but it's different when it hits you in the face. It was a different thing. With 40 people displaced, I arrived on the scene at about midnight after being called by police, for the fire department to come down. And Melissa Maltesi was called in at 12:30 in the morning and worked diligently until after 3:30 in the morning to help assess the needs of the displaced persons find shelter that night. The Red Cross came in and they were hemming and hawing based on the number of people that were displaced as to whether or not the town would have to open up a shelter at 2 o'clock in the morning, or whether we would be able to use their vouchers to put families up in a hotel. And that determination took some time to get to. Ultimately, the determination was that they would provide vouchers for those hotels. So Melissa and I worked to get a pet-friendly hotel in close proximity to Mill Pond that had available space for 15 families. 13 families, something to that effect. Wow. It was nothing short of awesome to see the two fire departments working so diligently together. And she's standing in the back of the room and doesn't like when this happens, but Melissa was just awesome in terms of her compassion and her ability to satisfy those folks. I was really, really proud of our community and the people who worked for it. It's not all good news. It's not all good news. Well, while firefighters were still on the scene, someone backed into one of the fire trucks, significantly damaging the bumper of the truck and narrowly missing a number of firefighters. Fortunately, the driver did have insurance, and that process has started. There were a number of people who were pretty unhappy with him as he was trying to, at that time of night, get out from all of the sirens. But there is an upside to the story, too. Bob's Discount Furniture saw the story that had happened and reached out to Melissa, and they donated one queen bed and 2 twin beds, delivered them, and set them up already at no charge. So that was a really awesome thing for them to step forward and do and chip in. And I also mentioned the town staff donated $500 from their own charitable giving, which is, I think, another example of the really wonderful people who work for our town. On December 21st, after not a whole lot of sleep for some of us, the Parks and Rec and Broadbrook Fire Department held their annual Torchlight Parade. Hundreds of people attended, and the parade and the carol sing afterwards included a guest appearance from Santa Claus, stuffed animals for kids, crafts, hot cocoa, and cookies. It was a nice way to kind of get into the holiday season, particularly thinking about how fortunate most of us are to have been able to celebrate that. On New Year's Eve, Diane Lohr performed some classic favorites at the Senior Center as they commemorated the spirit of the season, had their New Year's Eve party, even complete with a ginger ale toast, not a champagne toast, but ginger ale toast. On New Year's Day, the AHRC held their 10th annual New Year's Day hike. Well over 250 people participated on a beautiful day with hot cocoa provided by Abby's Helping Hands. On January 3rd, I met with the new town manager in South Windsor to talk about opportunities where our two towns can collaborate on shared services, as well as guidance that he might have in terms of economic development, because South Windsor has had tremendous success in recent years. And so when somebody's doing something right, you ask them. He has a background in economic development himself, although he hasn't been there very long. He comes from East Hampton, but he did provide some good insight and contacts that I hope to employ going forward. We have a follow-up meeting scheduled to talk about a couple of specifics that we might be able to regionalize to maybe to the benefit of the town in terms of improving services and reducing costs. We'll see how that pans out, but the point is, it is another first step in terms of establishing a relationship and creating a dialogue to see what we can do to move things forward. On January 7th, which is just Tuesday, Patrick McMahon from the Main Street Center came in to talk about what his organization has done around Connecticut to encourage economic development, including the utilization of tax increment financing, which is a phrase that I had been familiar with, but admittedly did not understand until talking to Patrick. So tax increment financing is is a tool that has been used on projects like the Montgomery Building in Windsor Locks. That's a TIF district, and they're reinvesting their increased grand list back into that specific district, which is part of how they're able to finance that project. It's in that case, they're using it as a public-private partnership to encourage the developer to pump more money into this specific region and continue to grow their grand list. It's a really innovative concept. It's used in other states, but it's not really used to a large extent in Connecticut. I've invited Patrick to come to our first meeting in February and talk about how we might employ that, what might make sense for us to do, and also to educate all of us about what tax increment financing is. I knew it from my time working in and around the Capitol as, it had tax in it, so it was a scary thing. But the reality is, it's a very innovative tool to reinvest in a specific portion of a community. So I'm excited to share that with you guys as Patrick comes and visits with us. You may have heard yesterday the court appeal pertaining to the proposed East Windsor Casino came down. The judge ruled on a narrow aspect of the appeal, noting that the application that was passed by planning and zoning didn't mention alcohol being served at the casino. From the town's perspective, we want to make sure that all economic development projects are done correctly, and this one is no different. So MMCT will have to decide whether they want to appeal the decision or simply resubmit amended plans to planning and zoning and seek approval that way. But the bottom line is that the narrow scope of the ruling is a correctable finding. So we'll have to wait and see what they're doing. On January 22nd, the results of the Route 5 corridor study will be presented at East Windsor High School. The event starts at 6:30, and everyone with an interest in revitalization of the corridor is invited to attend. That's another CROG-funded or CROG partnership that the private research firm has put together. I've seen a sneak preview of what it is they're going to share, and they've got some really creative ideas. Some of them are actually very attainable, but they're also looking for public buy-in and feedback at that event. So if there's an interest, please attend. At our last meeting, we discussed the prospect of establishing a special services district for the non-warehouse point section of town to provide fire service protection. This is intended as a means of tax equalization for those residents who live in the warehouse point district. This concept may be more complicated than originally thought, and I've talked to the Warehouse Point Fire guys, I've talked to Pullman and Conley, and the consensus is that it might be in all of our collective interest to hold an informational forum with Pullman presenting what the nuances in the statute actually would require, and then we make a determination as to a best course thereafter. So the dates that the earliest dates I could get from Josh and his partner, Mike Andriana, who also helped us with the casino development agreement initially, the earliest dates I could get from them that might work are February 3rd or 4th. The fire district has asked that we aim for the 4th because the 3rd is their meeting, but it comes down to the availability of this board as to whether or not the February 4th works. Does that work for you guys?
No.
So because of the nature of this, I don't know if this room is available. If this room is available, do we want to do it here or do we want to do it at a different venue that might be able to have a larger capacity? Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem talking to them. Okay. The question is, do we want to do it here with the availability of the cameras, or do we want to do it in a larger venue that might be able to hold more people?
Do you think we'll get that much?
I don't know. You know, I mean, you're probably the most tuned in on that issue of the 5 of us.
This is only affecting the Warehouse Point.
The question is,
because, well, the way you
it's really
said
affecting
it,
the Broadbrook.
I understand that, but the way you said it, it makes it sound like it.
It's an equalization for the residents. You know this.
I know that.
Can we do it at the high school and ask if the audio visual group would film it, so at least we'd have it available?
We could, but the quality of that has historically not been great. You know, I'm thinking back to the debates in the fall were rough.
I would say a larger forum where more people could attend. Where more people are attending Warehouse Point Fire meetings now. There were no seats available on Monday night, so
This is true.
I would say a larger venue.
This room is much bigger than that.
Yeah, but you're gonna, I think, more, if people are aware of it, I think more people will attend, so.
So why don't I reach out to the superintendent and find out if there is availability at any of the schools, and as long as that happens to be so, we'll see if we can do it there. If not, we'll use this as a fallback position if we can bump EDC.
What about the annex room?
The annex room.
Where we vote?
Oh,
That's twice the size of this.
that's roughly the same size. It's a little bit bigger than here, and there's no cameras. So, I'll handle the location as long as the 4th works for everybody.
Yeah, that works.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Lastly, on February 15th, Abby's Helping Hand will be having their annual Winter Gala. That event will start at 6 o'clock and will once again be held at Manili's. And in the report I'll post later, I included a link to where people can buy tickets and support that wonderful charity. That's all I have. So we will turn to Mrs. D'Souza.
First, I'd like to say how tragic the fire at Mill Pond was during the holiday season, and would like to publicly thank all those individuals involved. I understand the one injured person is out of the hospital. I wish him and all the residents affected a quick healing process. The community movement to help assist those affected is greatly appreciated. And again, Melissa, I heard great things prior to tonight of your efforts. So publicly thank you to you and all your people that have been diligently looking for donations. So kudos to you guys. On December 21st, 2019, I attended the meet and greet at the Bacon and Brew for the East Windsor Police Department. On January 3rd, I attended a meeting with First Selectman Jason Bowles to briefly go over some pending issues and to discuss vacation emergency coverage if necessary. Hopefully we'll never have to ever see one of those again. On January 6th, 2020, ZBA was canceled, so I was able to attend the Warehouse Point Fire District Commission meeting, which I'm sure the liaison will speak on. On January 7th, 2020, I attended the Economic Development Commission meeting. The continuation of the website review took place, and any updates and photo by committee members were asked to be submitted to Member Maynard as soon as possible so that a soft launch of the website could take place on February 15th, 2020. reference was made regarding the need to update the tax incentive ordinances in town. I was asked to look into it, as this is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. They will utilize the current ones that are currently on file. So Jason, at some point, if you could put that on the agenda, those ordinances for that, so we can review them.
Which ordinances in particular?
Anyone that affects the Economic Development Commission, tax
A
relief.
two-year-
Tax relief, I believe there's
two-year
two.
tax abatement program for under $500,000 and a 7-year
Right, there's
program.
two.
for
Okay,
$3 million.
okay, another one.
And
That's
if there's-
16-1, I think?
I believe you're correct, 16 something. It's on our agenda.
They have also requested that an opening statement by the first select person, Bowser, and Ruben Flores Marzan, the Planning and Zoning Office, be made available to make member Maiden Bernard to be used on the website.
Okay.
If you could coordinate that. Financials were briefly discussed, and we continued at a later date in executive session in order to plan accordingly for the balance of the fiscal year. Finally, goals and objectives moving forward will be discussed soon. What's not in my report is this board, the last 2 meetings that I attended, have probably accomplished more than what I thought they were. So it was nice to attend those meetings to see that they're a little bit further along and willing to move forward with what's available in town. So hopefully good things will come out of that shortly. January 8th, 2020, I attended both the police commission meeting, and although I arrived late, approximately 10 minutes, I attended the Board of Education meeting, and the liaisons will speak on those. January 9th, 2020, due to a conflict of change in tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting, I'm not able to attend the historical meeting that was in progress, started at 6:30, and they also remain for tonight's town meeting. I received during the last 2 weeks a verbal request regarding the recent continual loss of Cox cable service around the Depot Street area to see if the Board of Selectmen could take a look into this for those residents in that area. Therefore, what I asked First Selectman Jason Ball to do as such. The conversation said that there was some discussion with some of the maintenance people. They understand that some of the loss was due to the high winds and the trees and the power lines that came down. But they have intermittent problems, and they were told by one of the Cox cable workers is that as the end of Depot Street develops, it puts a drain on the Cox line, and that to resolve most of their problems, there should be another line added. So that's why they stepped forward to see if there's anything we can do. So I respectfully turn that over to you. That's all I have.
Don't have much going on, so.
Sorry, buddy.
Is that a report or a honey-do list?
Yeah. Selectman Ordell.
Okay. On December 31st, I met with the school superintendent, Christine DeBarge. We talked extensively and shared information about the town's education system. We looked for ways in which information could be better distributed to the community and how the community and the BOS could potentially help the town's education department. Some of the most fascinating facts that I agree would make it very difficult from a budget standpoint is the number of students we have coming and going during the course of the school year. With the latest numbers she shared with me on that day, we currently, since the beginning of the school year, have seen 188 new students enroll in the schools in this town, with an exit of only 26 students for various reasons, whether they moved or went to other schools, giving us an increase of 162 students since the beginning of the school year. Considering the school's budget was submitted almost a year ago, it's no wonder they have a tough time keeping their budget in check. And amongst these numbers, I was not given the actual number of students that may have had special needs amongst those 162, but considering the town runs at about a 10% level, we potentially saw 15 students with special needs and added costs. On December 21st, The family and I attended Coffee with a Cop at Baker and the Brew and donated gloves and hats and had a great breakfast. That evening, we also attended the Torchlight Parade, which was well attended by the community. On January 1st, I also went on the hike, which was another great turnout, another great day. Despite the wet weather, well, not the wet weather, but
it was a wet trail.
The wet trail. It was still a great hike, and everybody seemed to have a great time. On January 8th, I attended the police commissioners meeting. There, the police department discussed looking to set a less than 2% budget to present to the town this year. They said due to senior officers retiring and having officers with less seniority has helped keep the salary line down. However, they are still in contract negotiations, so this obviously could change at any time once that is resolved. Again, training has been greatly suffering due to the budget not passing in town. Chief DeMarco stated the '1 cause of liabilities and lawsuits against the town stem from a lack of officer training, and in the long run could be very costly to the town. State mandated training has also been on the increase. He also stated that the police IT area was able to do some reductions in their budgetary lines by upgrading some IT equipment, which cost less, and moving some of the expenses to the town's IT department. In reference to the recent Facebook chatter, Chief says that 12 to 15% reduction in property crimes is actually the realistic number, according to our Chief of Police in 2019. He says, now what was reported recently on Facebook, he says the numbers on Facebook are a year old and are based on per capita scale. So as a low population town like ours, it really skews our numbers, especially having a super Walmart in town, an unheard of number of car dealerships who often see a rash of tire thefts, catalytic converter thefts, and things of that nature, which are all reported, but really skew our numbers. And he says that crime in town is actually down, and it's really a safe place to live. Upcoming events include many programs at the Warehouse Point Library this month. There were too many to list, so you would have to see their Facebook page or check them online to see those. Parks and Recs is a new session starting for after-school programs. They start on February 4th, and they have online sign-up as well. And like Jason mentioned, tickets are going to be going on sale for Abby's Helping Hands 2020 Winter Gala, which is taking place in Neely's February 15th. I'd like to add that, I understand Jason's department has been lacking in help.
Excuse me. I think we have that solved.
Okay.
January 17th, we should have a new person coming on board. They're just doing the pre-employment stuff.
Great. Okay, because like I was going to mention,
I missed that.
Is I just received this entire packet at 11:30 yesterday morning, and it makes it very tough to get through and for all of us to make informed decisions on what we're going to be voting on and everything else. And hopefully, with your new help situation, that will get
So that was not a result of the missing person. That was a result of this being a special meeting.
A special meeting. And
I
I also understand
information
that too. You can't change the agenda on a special meeting and that. So you got
that was, and that, by the way, that will happen again on the 23rd. It will, because it's a special meeting, and I don't want things to sit unattended when we can't add things to an agenda. So that's why I intentionally delayed. I'm just telling you it's going to happen again. And
can we get our minutes? Can we get the minutes sooner?
Oh, sure. Yeah, the minutes are ready. Like, I think I'll have them ready by Friday, probably.
Okay. That would be great. If we could even just get that so we could start going through that.
Today's Thursday, not Tuesday. Yeah.
You guys have to approve it.
Yep.
Before you submit.
Yeah, we can get the minutes to you ahead of time. That's not a problem at all.
Okay. And lastly, we're still accepting applications for various boards and commissions in town. We just had a huge rash of resignations tonight. So we have lots of boards and commissions to fill. So anybody looking to do that is more than welcome to find the applications on the town website and the boards and committees looking for such fulfillment. And that's all I have.
Good job. Thank you. Sarah?
On Saturday, December 21st, in the morning, I attended the Coffee with a Cop event at the Baker and the Brew. It was great to see so many East Windsor residents in attendance to engage with Officer Stepien and Chief DeMarco. And there was also a collection of gloves and hats, so the members of our community can be warm this winter, and monetary donations were accepted as well. And it looks like
Not to interrupt, the Baker and the Brew donated $300 out of their incentives.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
So I would just like to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And it's nice to see too the partnership that has kind of taken place with social services and the police department with the Stuff a Cruiser and this event. It's nice to see things working like that in the community. That evening, I also watched the torchlight parade that went down Main Street in Broadbrook and joined in the festivities at the Broadbrook Fire Department. There was a large turnout of families in attendance to visit with Santa and enjoy the hot chocolate and cookies provided by the fire department. On Saturday, December 28th, on the 3 to 11 p.m. shift, I was delighted to go on a ride-along with Officer Casey Gonsalves, an officer who has been with the East Windsor Police Department for the past 3 years. Her efficiency, compassion for others, and her drive to build and capitalize on her skill set truly make her an asset to the police department and our community. This was my second ride along in 2019. I went with Officer Mitchell in the spring. It was great to compare the styles of policing and the tactics used by both officers, and I was extremely impressed with both, as well as our police department in its entirety. Our officers serve and protect our community with professionalism and integrity, and I thank them for their service. On Wednesday, January 1st, the American Heritage River Commission held their 10th annual New Year's Day hike. They did an excellent job of maintaining the trails despite the mud and soggy conditions, and there were over 260 hikers that participated on that day. On Monday, January 6th, I attended the Warehouse Point Fire District meeting. I was pleased to be joined by State Representative Carol Hall and State Senator Saud Anwar, who respectively listened to the commissioners' concerns and offered how they can assist the district with grant opportunities and other sources of funding at the state level. There were 71 fire calls for the month of December and 738 total calls for 2019. It was discussed that 49 of those calls were actually on Interstate 91, where Warehouse Point Fire did assist. Representative Hall, who serves on the Public Safety Committee in Hartford, will be looking into if the district is eligible to receive aid from the state for their assistance in these matters. On Wednesday, January 8th, I attended the Board of Education meeting. Principal Timothy Field and Assistant Principal Colleen Bava gave a very detailed presentation on the new mentorship program that they've implemented at the middle school. It works that there's one mentor, which can be any staff member per student, and the goals of this program are to increase regular school attendance, reduce tardiness, and unexcused absences for the students, and to receive fewer disciplinary referrals. There are about 20 or so students taking part in this program currently. There was a very nice PowerPoint presentation that went into great detail given. There were some statistics that of the students being mentored in this program, 55% are more likely to enroll in college, 78% are more likely to volunteer regularly, and 130% are more likely to hold a leadership position. I also attended the Economic Development Commission, and you did hear from Selectman D'Souza, but it was a very productive meeting, I thought, and they're moving along rather well. And I attended Police Commission as well, and you've heard from Selectman Nordell on that. I know you said that this is going to happen the next meeting, but I just want to give my piece. I'd like to echo Selectman Nordell's comments, taking into consideration that this is a new board with a new first selectman and one hardworking executive assistant. I have been very understanding to the fact that we haven't been receiving the agenda or our packets for the Board of Selectmen meetings in a timely manner. However, since this is our 5th meeting, I'm hoping that communication improves. It is very difficult to receive a 124-page packet the day before a meeting, and it's hard to thoroughly review items that are up for discussion. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that. Alan?
Okay. Yeah, so spent some time away, and most of my meetings were canceled in between our last one and this one. But last night I did get back into it with the Wetlands Commission. We didn't have any applications there. I'm also a member of the commission. But if you remember, we talked last time about getting an RFP out for a soil scientist. Since then, we did some research, or our staff did some research, and it appears that we are still giving money on an annual basis to the North Central Conservation District, which allows us to tap them for that kind of stuff. So, which is something we used to do in the past, and we haven't done it in a long time. So we are inviting them to the next meeting to reestablish that relationship with them and kind of go over all the things that they can help us with. Not only can they provide us with the soil scientists for our complex applications, but they can help us with policy matters that we may be interested in. And so that dovetails nicely into the work that we have been working on the last couple months and will continue throughout the winter. We're researching our complex application fees to make sure that when we do have big developments going on where that require a lot of staff involvement, that we are recouping some of that money, the taxpayer money that's being spent on that. And we're also starting research on an ordinance for wetlands fee violations.
I have the draft of that, the previous draft.
Yeah, and we went over that draft in last night's meeting, and we'll continue with that work since that was already vetted by a lawyer and everything. We're going to be reviewing that over the next month or two and coming up with some recommendations. We'll tighten that up and kind of bring that into reality, hopefully sometime in the next few months. And that's about it.
Awesome. We do have an executive, there's a second public participation. Members of the public, yes ma'am, name and address please.
Sharon Tripp, 76 Winkler Road. I just wanted to mention that at the American Heritage River Commission hike on January 1st, we did our annual food for pets and people drive. And this year we donated 599 pounds of food to the 5 corner camp.
Nice. Nice, that's awesome. Other public comment? Yes, sir.
I'd like 80 Rye Street as a former constructive critic of how our government process works. I am elated to not just give pats on the back, but do credit where it's due. You guys are all like, without a town manager, I consider you the chairman of the board, and the board of directors are you guys, and you have done terrific jobs as liaisons to these other committees. I'm a member of 2 other committees that I can speak very highly of. As chairman of the board, I want to say that Jason has gone above and beyond taking the job when he took that inventory physically in an automobile with a person from Creek, taking the job of what we desperately need in terms of a full-time economic developer, and in speaking with the town manager in South Windsor, that they've had a very successful economic development future, or past, and they're almost built out now. I really appreciate that. Accolades again to Melissa, because not only as Human Services Officer, but Director of the Senior Center and Park and Recreation, she works in unison with the Veterans Service Officer in terms of human resources, and we also coordinate and have several mutual clients with the Behavioral Health Department of State Mental Health, and it's working. You're doing what you're doing. Charlie, you got your work cut out for you, because you got to be the PR guy to dissect those figures and tell what the crime rates really are and how they're. I mean, really, we all need to speak well in this town. When the EDC picks up a report at our last Tuesday meeting and says, we're number 9, whoa, that looks terrible. Yeah. Look at it. Yeah. Look at it. Take out the factors of the visiting hoods that are ransacking and causing trouble at Walmart, and we're not bad off at all. No. The one thing that I did notice that I want to remark on, those weren't updated figures. And how in the heck can you project that you're going to have 3 murders in 2020? I don't know where these things come from, but I know I can count on you for taking a thought about anything we can do to help. As far as the EDC thing is, I'm really enthused. Not only that, we still, by the way, have 1 opening for an alternate. We're getting our act together and come along real well. And I'm really enthusiastic to see what you're going to do, Jason, along with the potential of shared services with CROG. And as our chairman's not here tonight, but as vice chairman, I certainly want to invite you to our next meeting, along with the deputy first selectman, who's done a tremendous job on keeping communications open. I'm in the town hall a lot, on veterans meetings, and it's always been an open door when I've walked into Jason's office, and we've ended up talking about economic development or budget or anything else, and that's a sincere comment. Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
If I could just interject on, one more time on the police crime statistics, what I was struck when I read on Facebook was in this very room, packed full of people, that was brought up, I think 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. The chief of police was here and basically gave the same information that Charlie gave tonight. And I was struck, and I was looking at it on Facebook, and I was thinking, some things never change. And some people have very short memories. That's not data you can use to talk about our town, but this period, that's just the way it is.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. As chairman of the WPCA, I would like to invite any selectman to come to our meeting at the last Wednesday of the month. We always have a place for you. We always have coffee.
So, I'll trump you there, and as a spoiler for those who want more information up front, the WPCA will be giving a PowerPoint presentation at our next Board of Selectmen meeting. It should take half an hour, 45 minutes or so of the meeting on what it is they do, what their budget looks like, how they come to it, how that whole process works. And Art has also extended an invitation to all of us, probably once the weather turns, to go out and actually take a tour of that facility, which is, it's a science lab, is what it is. They do some really, really cool stuff there. And for those who are interested, we can go and actually visit and see what it is that they do. Yeah, it's really, you'll like it. It's right up your alley.
I think Alan has one more question. No further questions.
Other public comments?
That's the 28th of the month?
It's the last Wednesday, always the last Wednesday.
But I've toured that facility already a few years back. I expected to be in full gear, being a sewer plant. I gotta tell you, you could eat off that damn floor. They do a phenomenal job. I don't know how it's so clean. Whoever you use, you can send them to my house, but it's amazing. So you got to go on that tour if you have that.
Do you have an updated map of the sewer service area with that presentation?
It's always there, yeah. We have.
Yeah, they have it actually hanging right in the front door, or front door of our office.
Do you have it online?
In the hallway, but it's there.
Do you have it online?
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
Well,
I don't think it's part of the town's GIS layer.
It can be.
That was my next question.
well, that's in process for the combination of the GIS. We have disparities of what the town has and what the WPCA has, and there's a work in process now to merge it all so it's all available to everyone. We have a GIS consultant. That's beyond the scope of any individual in the town, I can tell you that. It's a big project, but it's worthwhile. Since you've been there, Marie, there's been many.
I'm sure there has been.
A lot of improvements. So that's, if you get the
I'll be on it.
opportunity, a second tour would be worth it.
Absolutely.
Once the weather turns, part of it's outside.
Oh, no, not appropriate time.
Other public comment?
Briefly, one
Yes, sir.
last comment, because the EDC is so interested in this GIS plans, and it's an understatement to say there's a lot of capacity left at that sewer plant over there that needs to be taken up by tax-paying businesses.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Kathy Simonelli, 71 Depot. While we're talking about tours, I do want to mention that Christine would love to take any of the selectmen who are interested in a tour of the schools. She's very open to that. She'd love for you guys to see and get a better feel for what we're doing and what's going on in the schools and what issues they face and where your money's being spent. So if you're interested in that, please give the superintendent's office a call and we'll arrange it.
She and I went to the high school and the middle school yesterday, and I was going to make that same offer to the board, but honestly, rushed to get ready for the town meeting and missed that in my report. So thank you for filling that in. Other public comment? Seeing none, we'll go into, I'd like a motion to go into executive session, subject to 1-206E, following a brief 5-minute interview. Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you guys.